Y'all rung out? Rung out. We started. Oh my gosh.
There's 2 pages of this. Come on, it says it's going live. There we are. Okay, live. Huh. Looks like there are actually 2 people on here waiting for us. I don't know who that is, but whoever you are, glad you're there. Yeah. Okay. Well, Mike, what do you know? Is Susan going to come in? She's coming. She's just okay. We'll wait on Susan for just a minute. For those of you that are on the web, we're going to be looking at some things, and I sent an email that had an attachment that had these charts in it that we're going to look at. So if you want to follow along, you can maybe you want to pull those up real quick, and they're a PDF file, so you can. I think you could probably just shrink the live stream and look at the charts and still listen to what we're talking about when we do while we're waiting. Sorry that we haven't been here for a couple of weeks, right? I think this what's been was last week the only one we missed. Okay. And I do plan on probably going ahead and having Bible study next week, even though I'll have charge conference at 3, and that's supposed to go 3 to 4, and so then I'll be back in time, and I can go ahead and do Bible study. We don't need to. I'm sure there's going to be times as we get closer to the holidays that we are going to have to miss. So it's okay. Not a problem. We know that you've been wringing your little hands off.
I have. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3.
That was even a sound.
Thank you. I had to get my Bible. I had to make a stop.
I understand. Things happen. Okay. What I wanted to do before we get going back into reading in Revelation, I just kind of wanted to show you some different ways that people look at all of this end time stuff, we really start. I mean, some of it's really, really involved and very intricate, and some of these charts not so much so. But I felt like that it's a good idea to kind of know what how different people look at different things. Start with the one that has the 2 on one page, this one right here, and actually start at the one on the right. These are different. This is a comparison of different Christian millennial teachings, and for those of you that are online, if you haven't looked at it yet, it looks something like that. I don't know where you're seeing, but it's. The one on the right shows that there are differences based on the millennial, and the millennial is that 1,000-year period that God or Christ is supposed to reign on the earth, right? That's the millennium. And when we talk about premillennial, postmillennial, that's what they're talking about. And whether you're there is premillennialism, there's postmillennialism. And then there's pre-tribulationism and post-tribulation. So the tribulation is that bad period before the millennial. That's the tribulation, right? That's when a lot of the horrible things are going to come in. We'll see more of those in the other ones. some people, and a big part of it is, when is the church? When are the believers raptured? I don't like to say the church, because I don't believe. I think if you say the church, that seems to imply that anybody that's a member of the church is going to be raptured. And I mean, if that's going to happen, I don't see that being. I don't think that Jesus is going to look at the church rolls and say, let's see, you believe, but you weren't on the church rolls, so you don't get, and then there's going to look at people that are on the rolls and say, well, you were on the rolls, but you don't really believe. I don't think church, it's not church, it's the believers, when believers. So you have when the rapture is going to happen. So on the top one, on this one, this is post tribulation. So that means that the second, in this case, what it's saying is that the second coming is going to happen post tribulation, but pre-millennial, right? Because the second coming comes at the end of the tribulation, but before the beginning of the millennium. The other one, if you see the next one down, it is pre-tribulation, so that the rapture happens before the tribulation. That means the church, the believers are raptured before you get this tribulation, before this say 7-year or 70-year, depends. I think most people say 70-year or 7-year, before this bad period. But then you get the second coming pre-millennial, right? Dispensational means that they dispense with having to go through the tribulation. So you can be a pre-tribulational premillennialist. I mean, I'm just, and part of what I'm doing is just showing you that there are people that this is their life. This is what they spend their time doing, right?
They're bored.
Well, then you have people that are post-millennialists, and they say that the second coming is not going to happen until after the millennium. That there will be a millennium, and that you will have 1,000 years of, I don't know if it's maybe the reign of the church or the reign of faith or whatever, and then you get the second coming in the last judgment. Then this one talks about the amillennialism, which means that you don't really even have a millennial. It's more symbolic in the second coming. Now then, look at the left. This is what is the difference between pre and post millennial? And if you look, the key difference there is when it is that the rapture happens. The top one is the premillennialism. It's premillennial, but it's post tribulation. Is that Jesus comes and rescues us, or that's rapture, right? That rapture happens after the tribulation, but before the millennium. Then there's post-millennialists, that Jesus returns after the millennium and ushers in eternity. So there's those two different ones. Those are some of the possibilities.
What's LJ? Last Judgment?
Last Judgment, yeah, Last Judgment. Now, go to don't go to the back of that one. Go to the other one this one's a pretty easy one to follow. So this is a premillennial theory. I mean, this is not the only one. Again, this is just somebody's version of it. But in somebody's version, you had Israel. If you start on the left, Israel, that's actually before, probably before Jesus. So this goes way back, right? This goes way back before Jesus. Yeah. Then you get Christ fails, i.e., that personal ministry, that is Jesus right there. That's Jesus, right? You get the cross, which would be his death, burial, resurrection. Then you get the church, and that would be, we're in that what's called the church age. So that we would be right there. Then, according to this is premillennial, and this is pre-tribulation, right? Because it's before the tribulation starts. See, the rapture of the saints happens before the tribulation. So this is premillennial, pre-tribulation, right? So that you get the rapture, you get the tribulation on earth, which is 7 years. And so you get that 7 years. And then Jesus comes with the church. And this is where you get the Battle of Armageddon and the resurrection of tribunal or the tribulation saints, judgment of the saints, the kingdom is established, Jews return, Satan is bound, and then you get 1,000-year reign of Christ on earth, peace on earth, Christ enthroned Jerusalem, kingdom established, and then at the end of that 1,000 years, you get judgment, and basically the end. That is the end of earth as we know it. Then it all goes on to either eternal heavenly righteousness or eternity hellbound wickedness, one or the other, right?
On this first one, on this personal ministry, what does it mean when Christ fails?
It's not. He doesn't succeed in reconciling at that point all of creation. They don't accept him. So he failed. I mean, in terms of it's not really that he fails, but that the people fail to acknowledge him.
Oh,
He's murdered, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's that probably is kind of a bad way to put that. But
didn't think
but you know, the idea would be that they could have. I mean, they could have embraced him as the Messiah, and all kinds of things could have happened. So, but you know, it didn't work the way it could have. Okay, so now these other two. Let's go with the one that is just going to the one on the back of this one. That's this. Just flip over the one that you had. Okay, 7 years. Now this, and I don't even. Oh, this is this Tim Hyde McKay, escapeallthings.com. I mean, I just found these pictures, and I thought these will work as well as anyone. But look, I mean, this is this guy spent a lot of time on this, right? But notice where he says today. Okay, now look at where he says today is. If you look, it's on the left. There's only a little bit to the left of us, but the little bit to the left of us are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Those are the four. You know, and in his mind, the 4 horsemen are Catholicism, communism, capitalism, and industrialization. I find that very. I mean, I don't know that I read those things. I don't know that I got those things out of what they are, but he did. Okay, so that's today supposedly. Then in the future, he shows nuclear war that would be nuclear Middle East war, Damascus, Jordan, and major Arab cities nuked by Israel. I mean, this is his theory. Remember, this is his theory. And then he gets Elijah warns the world to repent and flee to Mount Zion. There's a 2-year period. You know, I don't know. That's what he says. Then we start this period, and I think that the the whole the period from where you have the trumpet, the 6th seal, I guess, all the way to, well, no, it doesn't. Okay, no, it doesn't start. The Great Tribulation doesn't even start, if you notice, until way over. Notice it's to the right of the center of the page. So there's all that, but you get America, which is Babylon, is nuked by Russia. You get Wormwood, which is a dwarf planet flyby, global earthquakes. It breaks up and causes impacts and tsunamis, famine and pestilence in all places. The women saints gather at the Jordan to escape the Antichrist at the start. You know, but this is his idea of how all of this happens. Whoever this Tim McKay is, I don't know who he is, and I mean, you know, and I don't know. You know, the dates. The dates. If you look on here, he does actually have. There is. I see one semi-set date, right? You see that at the very top. He has this point at which this 7-year thing is Nissan 1, and it's either 2024 or 2031 but notice he has or ... So he doesn't really commit himself to when for sure this happens. It can happen in 2024, 2031, probably every 7 years it can happen that way, right?
Apparently that's some planet that flies by.
That's his.
Nissan one.
Yeah. Well, no, Nissan one is a Jewish. That's a Jewish calendaring thing of, I don't know if that's a certain year in a cycle or something like that. But it's that, no, Nissan. It's the Wormwood that's the flyby thing, and that's the supposed dwarf planet. But but Nissan is they have, I think they have different names for different years in certain cycles, and that's a name for or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, but the next one I guess is in 2024.
What does wormwood mean? What is that? I've heard that over and over.
Wormwood is
Wormwood in the Gulf.
Yeah, is I thought it was some kind of a tree, but maybe it's, I don't know. Google it. Yeah, let's see what does Mr. Google say.
I don't know.
Okay, up here where it says Trump impacts, and Trump is the dark sky. Is that now? Or is that trumpet?
Trump. That's Trump. It's trumpets. Yeah, it's a shortening for trumpet. Yeah. I don't think he's saying Donald Trump. No, I don't think he's saying Donald Trump. I don't think so. I don't think so. But notice, I mean, he's very involved. And do notice that up on the second row down, the second from the left, the third temple with an asterisk. That there is within the cosmology of what has to happen for the end of the world, according to Revelation, the temple is supposed to exist, and if the temple doesn't exist, then you can't. I don't know how you get to where you get to some of this stuff, and therefore you have to have a third temple built, and that's one reason. It kind of bothers me, but a lot of the really what's wormwood?
Wormwood is an herb. The above ground plant parts and oil are used for medicine. Wormwood is used for various digestion problems such as loss of appetite, upset stomach. But it also has something to do with absinthe, the cocaine of the cocaine.
Absinthe is like a you drink it. It's a
Okay.
liqueur.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's
Yes, it's a hallucinating drug.
okay. All right. So, but in this case, when he talks about he puts wormwood, that's obviously not what he's talking about. So we'll have to read about how it's used in the scripture. But the really conservative evangelical part of the Christian church, they're huge supporters of Israel. Well, it's not because they really like Israel that much, although, I mean, I'm not saying that they don't. Maybe they do. But there's a huge desire for within that evangelical, really conservative group, for Israel to start rebuilding the temple, because you got to have the rebuilding of the temple to have the second coming to usher all of this in. And so it's almost like they want Israel to be powerful and succeed so that Israel can rebuild the temple so that we can have Armageddon in the end of the world. And it's kind of, I kind of find that, I don't know that's a great motivation for supporting, I mean, because the evangelical, really conservative part of the church does not accept, they don't believe that Jews are saved. I mean, they believe that they would be condemned in judgment because they reject Christ. And so it's just strange to me, but it all is about the temple. And if you were going to have a war in the Middle East, the thing that would most likely cause war in the Middle East will be the Jews, the nation of Israel, actually beginning construction on the third temple, on the Temple Mount, because the Temple Mount is where the Dome of the Rock is. And if they were to come in and do anything to the Dome of the Rock in order to build a temple, you would see literally all hell break loose in the Middle East. That would cause it. So anyway, so this is an interesting one. I mean, You almost would have to have the guy here to explain it to you because it's that complicated. Now go to the other one on the other side of the other page. It looks like this one.
Wormwood, it also says wormwood is a star or angel that appears in the book of Revelation.
So but it's only there. So it's not. Okay. Yeah.
Well, in Jeremiah, he says, therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts concerning the prophets, behold, I'm going to feed them wormwood and make them drink poisonous water. And the frost, blah, blah, blah.
But that doesn't have anything to do with a star.
No, but it does.
It is
The
biblical.
Bible says wormwood is real and it's coming, and that's the planet. that he's talking
Okay. So go to this one and look at this one. This is another version, and I don't even know where this one comes from. To be honest with you, I didn't.
When they rebuild the temple, are they going to use that wall that's still there, or will they?
No,
They surely wouldn't tear that down.
no, they would not. The Wailing Wall, they wouldn't. But would they damage? Could they build a temple and not damage the dome? Could they coexist on the same hill or whatever? I don't know. I don't know. It's gonna be a problem. Okay, so in this one, now the one thing the only thing I didn't say about this other one is if you notice the rapture on this one, I'm talking about the one that we did before, right? This one, the rapture is way over on the right, seventh trumpet, rapture and resurrection. So that means if the Great Tribulation is to the left, this is post-tribulation, right? Premillennial, I guess, is the second coming of day of the Lord is premillennial. So it's post-tribulation. The rapture is post-tribulation. The coming of Christ is premillennial. So it's post-tribulation, premillennial. Now, if you look at this other one that we're looking at, let's look and see what it is. Where do you get the rapture? Where do you get the rapture? Okay, notice, in this case, all the way to the left, you get the first resurrection and translation of the saints. The rapture is way over here before you even get the opening of the first of the seals, right? And so at that point, then this is pre-tribulation, right? Because the tribulation is basically everything from that to the right is until you get to the millennial. So it's pre-tribulation, right? And then if you look over, let's see, where is it that they say it looks like if you look
Wouldn't this be the seventh seal? So right here. To the left of where it says the rapture. See, Christ is in the center? No?
those are the seven lampstands. Those are the seven letters to the seven
Those are
churches.
the lamps.
Yeah, and then see, it's got the names of the churches there to the right of it.
Seals are right
That's it's chapter 1.
Okay.
Then you got, but notice that the rapture, there's no reference to where that is in Revelation because it's not in Revelation. The rapture really, they've taken the rapture out of Matthew 24 and other places. I mean, it's not the only place it is, but they sort of grafted in because it has to fit in there somewhere. I'm not criticizing them for that, other than to say it's just that's not in Revelation. Okay, but then if it's pre-tribulation, then where is it that you get the coming of Christ? And if you look at the bottom where it says bottomless pit, you see that little thing? Look straight up from that. It said the Lord's descent to the earth, right? And so that would be the second coming. And then to the right of that, you get the millennial. So this is pre-tribulation, pre-millennial. Now, see all I'm giving you kind of tools. If you ever see these kinds of things, or somebody wants to talk to you about it, you know what they're talking about.
You just pull that out.
You pull just so when they say when they're going to start talking, you can say, so are you a pre-tribulationist or a post-tribulationist? Well, are you a premillennialist or a postmillennialist, or a because there's some that actually are during the tribulation, or during the millennial, they're so. But you can and this is this person's belief. This person's belief. The rapture happens, then you get the seven trumpets and or the seven seals, and then you're going to get the breaking of or the blowing of the seven trumpets and the seven bowls. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's going to go on. And so if you notice this kind of big middle section, you get chapters 4 and 5, 6 through 11, including 7 and 10. Then you get 12 and 13 is in the middle, these great actors. And then you get chapter 14, you get the roles. 14 is the harvest and the vintage. Then you get 15 and 16 with the 7 bowls of the wrath of God, and on and on. I mean, it tells you where all of it is within the book, right? And so this one is a little more tied, in my mind, to the book of Revelation. And so, in a way, I guess that's good. That's good. Okay, so those are all the different things. I mean, I wanted to give you those so that you have some idea of what's out there, and it doesn't.
Basically, this is not going to happen in our time. Or we don't know.
It may never happen. I mean, that's the deal. Is we don't. And remember from last time, there are people that believe that everything that we're reading happened not just in history, but it happened around the time that John wrote it. That it happened within, he wrote this, say, in 90. It happens between 90 and 100 AD. There are people that think that all of it's already happened that long ago. There are others that think that it was history, and it happened between when John wrote it and, say, 300, when the church is accepted as the main church. There are people that think that. There are people that think it's history, but it's not that long ago that some of it may, and then there's people that think it's, those are called futures, right? You had distant futurists. I don't remember what all the terms were. Anyway, but we don't know. We can study it, we can look at it, and I think it's interesting to know and to think about. I don't personally think it's worth putting this much time into. I mean, if you're going to spend just years and years coming up with your version of how this is going to work, and you think that it's going to be in any way accurate, you are wasting your time. I mean, you got spend your time doing other. We're spending an hour Sunday evening, and I spend a little more to pull this stuff up, and that's about all I'm willing to give. I'm not going to come up with my own ideas of what it happens. So, but you never know. You never know. Okay, so we're going to start. We're at a point of chapter 8. We finished chapter 7 last time. We finished, and we did the first. We've done the first 6 seals, and we're ready to open the 7th. And then once we open the 7th, then some new stuff starts to come. It's the 7th seal in and of itself is basically silence, but then we're going to have these new things. These are trumpets, and which the 7, different things. Okay. So chapter 8 verse 1. When the Lamb opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. And the stuff I read said that the silence is so that you can hear the cries of the martyrs and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't say that, but why else would you have silence other than to be able to hear something, right? So you get and I think it's a half hour, not an hour. There's not an hour of sun, just a half hour. Just a half hour. 30 minutes down, he set a stopwatch. And I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them. So now we've done the 7 seals. The Lamb has opened the 7 seals. The 7th seal is open. There's quiet. And now there's another, I don't see this as like a drama, Now these 7 angels come and people come out and they give these 7 angels each a trumpet, and they all have 7 trumpets. So there are 7 trumpets, right? Another angel with a golden censer came and stood at the altar. The censer is the little round pot with the holes in it. It's on a chain. They put burning incense in it, like in Catholic or yeah, and they swing it back and forth. And the belief is that you have the incense in heaven because the prayers of people, because they're human, the prayers are in a way tainted because they have selfishness and all that, but the incense makes them holy before God, kind of filters out that stuff, whatever. But so this one angel is, waving around the incense. He was given a great quantity of incense to offer with the prayers for all the saints on the golden altar that is before the throne. So just so you know, it took a lot of incense, right? A great quantity. It's not just a little bit. Took a lot, right? A lot of incense.
That stuff will knock you out.
Yes. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints rose before God from the hand of the angel. So you kind of get this smoke, this incense smoke, and the prayers kind of wafting to God on the throne. Then the angel took the censer and filled it with fire from the altar. So there's a burning altar, right? Remember, for them, the altar is not just like a piece of furniture. The altar is this is at a time when they are still sacrificing, or at least they were. They're not now, but they had been sacrificing animals on the altar in the temple. So the altar would have been a working piece of whatever. I mean, I'm sure it's got to be metal, and they would sacrifice, and blood would run on it, and and all that. So there's a fire constantly burning for sacrifices to be made. So this is that same kind of thing in heaven. This is the heavenly altar, and there's still a fire there. So he takes the censer, and I guess he pours out the incense, and he fills it with fire, and he threw it on the earth. From heaven, this angel takes this censer, fills it with fire from the altar, and then throws it at the earth, down to the earth. There were peals of thunder, rumbling, flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. What might that? I mean, if you're thinking about something that might,
Meteor.
like a meteor, yeah, something like that. A meteor would very much look like it could be that kind of thing. So that may be what it would look like to us, or to the people on the earth. And you would get with a good sized meteor, at least in that area, you probably would get thunder and rumbling and maybe lightning. I don't know. I'm not sure whether depends on it's possible, but definitely an earthquake if it hit. Now the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets made ready to blow them. So now they've stepped up, and now we're ready. Done the 7 seals. Now we're ready for the 7 trumpets. The first angel blew his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were hurled to the earth. So while the angels are in heaven, right? What happens does not stay in heaven. These are like pestilence and plagues and bad things that are going to happen on the earth. And so they blow while the trumpet blows, and you get, John knows what they are in heaven. They're going to come and affect the earth. So the first one is hail and fire mixed with blood. They hurled to the earth. A third of the earth was burned up. A third of the trees were burned up, and all green grass was burned up.
Okay, is this the entire world, or just the world that these people knew of?
I would say that don't get too literal. And in this time, it was the part they knew of. I would assume that the assumption is that it's a third of all the world, but whether that works
They,
out or not.
yeah, they, at this point, they don't know.
Right. They don't even know about parts of the world. The other thing is I think it's interesting. Notice that you get a third of the earth is burned and a third of the trees, but all of the green grass is burned. I find that fascinating. All of the, I mean, not just a third of the green grass, but it says all of it is burned. Now let's see what my thing says on that. That is 8.
How can the grass burn and not catch on to the trees?
7.
You don't have the whole earth covered in green grass. You got
Yeah, that's true.
deserts and
Well, that's true too.
Yeah. No, wait, that's not. What am I looking? 8,
Deserts.
8, 7.
ponds, lakes.
Yeah. It doesn't include. This does not include the oceans. Okay, this does not include the oceans. Okay, now my little commentary does say, it says all green grass was burned up. That is in the third part of the earth which was affected. That it doesn't that when it says all green, it doesn't mean that it burned a third of the world and then but all the grass. It means that in that third of the world, all of the green grass, all the trees, all the green grass is burned. And I mean obviously all the brown grass would be burned because it's dead and it would burn faster. But so it's not, that's what I was thinking that this had said was don't think it's all the green grass, not all the green grass. It was just in that third that's affected. In that third that's affected, right? Now, one of the things that this commentary points out, and that if you look at these things, well, let's get to the next one, and then I'll do that. The second angel blew his trumpet, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. A third of the sea became blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died, and a third of the ships were destroyed. Okay, so first you have the third of the earth that's burned. Now you have this second angel blows, and there is this great mountain burning with fire that's thrown into the sea. What does that sound like? A great mountain burning with fire.
Volcano.
A volcano, right? A huge volcano that maybe rises up and then collapses in on itself and spews lava and stuff like that into the sea, right? But then it says a third of the sea became blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea die. And a third of the ships were destroyed.
What's the significance of a third all the time? Is that?
I don't know. Maybe we'll see if it comes out sometime later on. I don't know what it is. But okay, now hailstones, hellfire kind of stuff, and then the water, the sea turns to blood. Does that ring any bells? Does that sound familiar at all? Because
when Moses is trying to get the people out of Egypt.
Okay, this is similar to the plagues that will come to Egypt when Moses is trying to get Pharaoh to let his people go. Right? Is that there are similar things. These are very similar to what would happen in our world today. If you said that a third of the sea is going to become blood or red, what is that? What's going on? Do you guys know what's going on? That
War?
Well, no, because it's not. I mean, the idea that you're going to get enough war that that the sea is going to turn bloody, that's probably not real accurate. But there is stuff going on right now, right? Isn't it the red tide? That's pollution and algae formation and all that kind of stuff. The red tide kills sea life. And so it could be not just, I mean, it could be, it looks like, it looks like blood, but it's not exactly blood. I mean, it could be red tide that we're talking about here. And it could be that a volcano, whatever it is that causes red tide, if it were somehow unleashed through a volcano and the volcano was so huge that it spewed it into the ocean, you could have, I mean, there could be huge red tide that would, cover a third of the ocean. And that could be horrendous. So, I don't know. Just that's one thing that when it talks about the blood, the red, that we're actually seeing that. Isn't that one of the things Florida is dealing with? Is that some of their pollution, some of their toxic stuff is causing, huh?
On the east coast of Florida.
The red tide is coming out from the land into the ocean, and it's causing major problems. So. Okay, so that's the second trumpet. First trumpet, kind of hailfire that burns up the earth. Second one is kind of like a volcano that crashes into the ocean, and then you get this sea becoming like blood, or blood becomes blood. Okay, number 10. The third angel blew his trumpet, and a great star fell from heaven, blazing like a torch. And it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water.
Oh, did you hear?
Hmm?
The name of the star
is wormwood. A third of the water became wormwood. So it became poisonous, right? I mean, that's in this case, wormwood is, I think that they're not necessarily hallucinogenic or whatever, but poisonous, right? Bitterness.
Mine
Okay.
says that it's not poisonous, but it's bitterness.
Okay, but this says many died from the water. So it's, I mean, to me that sounds poisonous. That doesn't just sound bitter. It sounds poison. But bitter. Normally, bitterness in water it means that it's not potable. It's not something you're supposed to drink. But a third of the water became wormwood, and many died from the water because it was made bitter. So it's something about the water. But I try to think, a third of the earth, the water for a third of the earth is polluted by a star that hits somewhere. I'm just trying to imagine where would a meteor fall that could poison a third of the earth, the water for a third of. I don't know that. I don't know that there is a single place that or even in their conception of the world. If you think of their conception of the world, normally it runs from, say, the Africa, Europe, over to maybe the middle of Asia.
What about the Nile?
Could be that they would think of it that way. Could have been maybe up in the Alps that would poison the water. That would be the top third if it hit up in that area. And if Italy and Spain and maybe down into Greece didn't have, I don't know where that third, how that would work. But if there are certain places, if you hit it just the right place, maybe it could poison the headwaters of some of these really major river. If it hit in South America and hit at the Amazon, could take out that whole continent pretty much. But if you hit in Africa, if you hit at the headwaters of the Nile, but you might also get whatever goes, because there has to be something that goes south to feed the areas in the south of Africa. But you could hit someplace where it would do that for all of Africa. You could, in a sense. So it just kind of depends on where that star would fall.
What about the Mediterranean?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If you hit up in sort of the Alps, I don't know whether the Alps but over for Greece and like the Adriatics, it's a little different. I'm not sure where their sources the sources of the rivers are. I'm not sure, but it could be it if it hit up in those mountains up in Europe, it maybe could do that kind of. But it would have to, in order to affect the waters that way, it would have to land in one of the mountain ranges because that's where the waters come from. And so it'd have to poison them at the headwater up there in order to do that. And it could be if you had a meteor that hit, it wouldn't necessarily just be the meteor itself. It could be that the meteor strikes and releases that there's something in there. It could be gases. Yeah, it could be. But it could mix with something that's already in the mountains. With some kind of minerals or something that are there and causes toxic stuff to develop, because things that are coming from outer space, we don't know what's on those things. I mean, that was the whole reason, every time somebody comes back when they've been exposed, when they went to the moon and were exposed to stuff, man, we decontaminated. I mean, we kept them in quarantine because you never know what they might have picked up coming back. So we have to be careful. Okay, so there's our wormwood. So we got our star wormwood, and you get the idea. Wormwood here, the star is named wormwood because of the effect it has on the water. That's not an independent name. It's named because of that effect. Okay, the fourth verse 12. The fourth angel blew his trumpet, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of their light was darkened. A third of the day was kept from shining, and likewise the night. Okay, so how do we make sense of that? Because I don't see how you could have a third of the sun blow out. I just don't know. I don't know how that. But could it be from the perspective of the people on Earth that a third of the sun the sun goes dim? A third, it's like the brightness gets turned down a third. And if you have the brightness of the sun turned down a third, you would also have the brightness of the moon turned down a third. And all that. And I mean, to me, what would make sense is the ash or from this meteor hitting, you get huge amounts of garbage in the atmosphere that blocks out the sun. And that's where they talk about when they talk about the results of this nuclear war this guy was talking about is the idea of nuclear winter, that the atmosphere would be so polluted that the sunlight couldn't get through, and we would fall into a winter that it would be horrible because the light couldn't reach the earth.
Could it be an eclipse?
This doesn't say an eclipse. I mean, and I don't know, an eclipse normally wouldn't, it's not long lasting. An eclipse just comes and goes. It's just something passes between you. In this case, it would have, it sounds more long term, because when it says a third of the moon, a third of the sun was struck, so that a third of their light was darkened. That's not a temporary thing.
Okay, so this is a forever thing that's going to happen.
Well, it's at least a longer term. It's not like a 3-hour kind of thing. I mean, I don't get the idea. It doesn't. To me, it sounds like, because it's both day and night, so it's ongoing. Now, I don't know that it means forever, but at least it's for a while. It's longer. It's longer than I would think of an eclipse, I guess is what I would say. Right? Okay, so that's the fourth trumpet, the fourth angel and the fourth trumpet. 13. Then I looked and heard an eagle crying with a loud voice as it flew in mid-heaven. So you got this eagle flying around, right? Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth at the blasts of the other trumpets that the three angels are about to blow. So it's like, Whoa, man.
Is that a warning?
You ain't seen nothing yet. That's right. That's right, boy. Woe unto you, because you ain't seen nothing yet. It's about to get worse, right? You only thought it was bad. It's about to get worse.
I hope I'm not here when this happens.
Yeah, I think most of us hope that we're not
Yeah.
here. I think that, or that
I
it,
don't want to go through that.
or that it doesn't, or that it doesn't happen. I mean, I don't know. My thing about, there are people that fervently pray. They want Jesus to come today. They want Jesus to come today. Think of the billions of people that will be condemned to hell if Jesus were to come today. I mean, that's true. And I'm like, really? Is that, I would think that you should be praying not for Jesus to come today, but for all these people to come to know Christ so that they're not condemned for eternity. And when you pray for Jesus to come today, you're praying that all these people be, I don't, it's like this thing, I don't want it to happen while I'm here. I don't want it to happen anytime until as many people as are really ever going to be able to be saved are saved. I mean, don't let anybody be condemned that doesn't have to be. And
It's not getting a hurry.
yeah. It's like the guy, the little boy in the revival. The guy's preaching on and on about being saved and does the altar call. And if you want to die, when you die, if you want to go to heaven and be with Jesus, raise your hand. And everyone in the congregation raised their hand except the one little boy in the man says, you don't want to go to be, when you die, you don't want to go to be with Jesus. And the boy said, oh, when I die. I thought you were talking now. I was like, that's kind of, we think that we're talking now. So, okay, so let's do this one, at least start this one fifth trumpet, and then we may not get very far into it, but because there's a lot of stuff right here. This will give you something to think about for the week.
Oh, yeah, we can sleep on that.
Yeah, you can sleep on this one. The fifth angel blew his trumpet, and I saw a star that had fallen from heaven to earth. And he was given, who is he?
The star was given the key.
Okay, the star, okay, so he is the star, was given the key to the shaft of the bottomless pit. He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke like the smoke of a great furnace. So this star, and it almost sounds as if the star is not, well, and my footnote says a star fallen from heaven might have even been one of the angels, and it may be Satan himself. The idea that Satan was given the key to the bottomless pit would kind of fit in.
That'd be a good place for it.
Okay. He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke like the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened with the smoke from the shaft. Then from the smoke, so from this bottomless pit, right, came locusts on the earth. And they were given authority. They were like the authority of scorpions of the earth. In other words, these are not your normal locusts. These are locusts that can hurt people, right? These are, scorpions are they can sting and hurt, right? So these are some kind of a stinging locust. They were told not to damage the grass of the earth or any green growth or any tree, but only those people who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads. They were allowed to torture them for 5 months, but not to kill them. Just torture. Their torture was like the torture of a scorpion when it stings someone. And in those days, people will seek death, but will not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them. Okay, so this is this first pestilence that comes out of the pit, what we would think of as the pit of hell, right? Are the locusts. Again, When you think of locusts coming, sounds like locusts that came to Egypt, right? Only in that case, the locusts didn't come hurting individual people. They came; those locusts came destroying the land and stuff. These locusts, interestingly enough, these are people-seeking locusts, right?
Only people.
Huh?
Only people see.
Yeah, only people, and only certain people seek it, right? If you have the mark of God on you, then but that does tell us something, okay? If this is the tribulation, which I think we would say it is, right? That means that there are faithful people alive on earth during the tribulation, because it says that the locusts could not attack the people that have the seal of the Lord, right? Now, those can be, you could have a rapture before the tribulation, and once those people leave, other people would come to know Christ. And these are those who came to know Christ after the rapture, at the very beginning of the tribulation. As people become Christians, they have the seal of God on them, and they are spared. But there are going to be Christians here on the earth during the tribulation. I mean, that seems very clear there, that there are Christians. Otherwise, they would just say they punished everybody, and they don't. There are people that have the mark of Christ on them that they don't punish.
Okay, so the locusts are gonna leave them alone.
Right.
It's just the non-believers
Yes.
that are gonna
Yes.
get attacked.
But then we're going to hear more about these locusts, and I mean, the next verse begins, in appearance the locusts were like horses equipped for battle. So I mean, I don't know that these are really locusts. Okay,
Oh.
so just kind of hold the thought right there. We're going to stop right there at the end of 6. We'll pick up at 9, 7. We'll pick up at 9, 6, and you can. It'll be online. You'll be able to watch it if you're not here.
Oh, okay.
So you will be able to see it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and log this off so that we can do our other thing. And let's see, in the stream. Oh, Jim Lamb actually. Jim Lamb said something on here. That's in the stream. Come on. Yes, I'm sure I want to end. Don't you always love it when it does that? Are you sure?
Sure. One more chance.